Welcome to today's deep dive. We're incredibly glad you're joining us because today we're taking a microscopic look at a creature that has been scuttling across the Earth for over 300 million years.
Yeah, think about that timeline for just a second.
Right, it's a staggering amount of time. I mean, this is an insect that has successfully survived multiple mass extinctions.
It predates the dinosaurs.
Exactly. And yet, despite that ancient, almost majestic lineage, if you happen to see one darting across your kitchen floor at midnight.
Oh, your first instinct is probably just sheer, unadulterated panic.
Oh, absolutely. We are, of course, talking about the cockroach.
It really is the ultimate survivor.
Yeah.
And I think because they've been living alongside us in the shadows for so long, humans have built up this massive, really complicated mythology around them.
Yeah.
We've essentially projected our own anxieties onto this tiny insect, creating a whole web of urban legends that dictate how we react to them.
Which brings us directly to the source material for today's deep dive and really our primary mission. So we're pulling from a highly comprehensive guide published by Simple Pest Management. They're a pest control company serving several California counties.
Places like San Diego, Sacramento, Riverside, Placer.
Yeah, all those areas. And their goal with this guide, and our goal for you today, is to finally separate the biological facts from the urban fiction.
Because, as the guide rightly points out, well-intentioned people often make their pest control decisions based entirely on these legends.
And that just leads to wasted effort, a ton of unnecessary anxiety,
And sometimes it actually makes the infestation significantly worse.
which is wild.
Exactly. When you're dealing with a pest that is this highly adaptable, operating on bad information simply gives the insect the upper hand.
Yeah.
You need to know exactly what you're up against, structurally and biologically.
Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through this guide, it becomes glaringly obvious that while some of the myths we all grew up hearing are wildly exaggerated, others contain these absolutely terrifying kernels of truth.
Oh, definitely.
Let's look at the ultimate resilience myth, the classic Cold War urban legend.
Ah, the nuclear blast.
Yes, the idea that if humanity wipes itself out in a nuclear war, the cockroaches will just brush off the radioactive fallout and inherit the Earth.
Right. What's fascinating here is how this particular myth takes a genuine, documented biological advantage and stretches it to a comic book extreme.
Okay, so break that down for us.
Well, let's look at the actual physics of a nuclear blast. You have the intense heat, the massive pressure wave, the immediate firestorm.
Sure.
All of that instantaneous, catastrophic physical destruction would vaporize a cockroach just as surely as it would destroy any other living creature at ground zero.
Right. I mean, they aren't wearing invisible titanium armor.
Exactly. They're going to be ash just like the rest of us if they're caught in the blast radius.
But the core of that myth is really about the radiation environment afterward, right? And the numbers the guide provides on their radiation resistance are just staggering. For context, humans can generally tolerate an exposure of about 400 to 1,000 rads before you see lethal system-wide effects.
And cockroaches.
They can survive exposure to anywhere from 6,400 to 10,000 rads.
It's an incredible threshold.
Yeah, how is that even physically possible?
It really comes down to their cellular structure and the mechanics of their cell division. So radiation is highly destructive, specifically when it targets rapidly dividing cells.
Okay.
Human cells divide quite frequently, making us highly susceptible to radiation damaging our DNA during that division process.
So we're basically a walking target for radiation damage.
Exactly. Cockroaches, on the other hand, have a significantly simpler cellular structure, a much slower rate of cell division.
I see.
Because their cells just aren't dividing as rapidly, the radiation simply doesn't have the same catastrophic opportunity to cause system failure.
Though I do love that the guide points out something pretty funny. To humble our supposedly invincible roach overlords.
Oh, right. The fact that they aren't even the reigning champions.
Exactly. They aren't the champions of radiation resistance in the insect world. Fruit flies and certain types of beetles can actually survive even higher levels of radiation than cockroaches can.
Yeah, so they're exceptionally tough, but they aren't invincible, which is a crucial theme to keep in mind when we look at their biology.
Yeah. Speaking of their biology, we have to talk about their physical resilience, because there is one myth that sounds like pure science fiction, but the guide confirms it's true.
I know where you're going with this.
A decapitated cockroach can live for 1 to 2 weeks.
Yes. It's an entirely true and highly unsettling biological reality.
What blew my mind in the guide is understanding how they pull that off. It completely rewired my understanding of anatomy.
It really challenges what we think of as essential for life.
Right. For starters, they don't breathe through a centralized airway in their head. They breathe through these tiny openings called spiracles located all along the sides of their body segments.
Which solves the breathing issue.
And on top of that, they have an open circulatory system with incredibly low blood pressure. So if they lose their head, they don't bleed out.
No, the severed neck just clots almost instantly.
It's just wild.
Well, you've hit on the two major mechanical hurdles there, oxygen and blood loss. But the really incredible part is the neurological aspect.
Right, because you would think you need a brain.
Exactly. You might assume that even without bleeding or suffocating, a body needs a centralized brain to tell the legs to move or the body to stand.
But they don't.
No, cockroaches operate on a decentralized nervous system. They rely on clusters of nerve tissue called ganglia, which are distributed throughout their entire body.
Just spread out everywhere.
Right. And those ganglia are perfectly capable of controlling basic bodily functions and physical reflexes, completely independent of the brain and the head.
So the body can still just stand up?
It can stand up and it can still react to physical touch.
Okay, but I have to push back a little on the immortality vibe here, because they do eventually die after that week or two.
Yes, they do.
So if the body is functioning and breathing, what finally takes them out?
Dehydration. It comes down to basic physics. Without a mouth, the insect cannot ingest water. It essentially just dries out over time.
Wow.
Though I should add, it's not just the body that survives for a while.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say. The guide drops this incredibly horrifying detail.
It's pure nightmare fuel.
The severed head itself can actually survive for several hours on its own, just sitting there, waving its antenna around before it finally expires.
It's a remarkable demonstration of their biological efficiency. But again, it proves that while they have unusual survival mechanics, they are still fundamentally bound by basic necessities like water.
Okay, let's shift gears from the biological horror to the psychological side of things, because the way we perceive these insects really dictates how we handle them.
Absolutely.
There is a massive societal stigma that cockroaches only infest dirty homes. People carry so much shame about this. If you find a roach, the immediate assumption is that you are failing at keeping a clean house.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see exactly how damaging that psychological stigma is.
How so?
It actively prevents people from seeking professional help because they're simply too embarrassed to make the phone call.
Oh, that makes sense.
The reality is that cockroaches are simply opportunistic survivors. They hold no moral judgment about your housekeeping skills. They are relentlessly searching for three basic things: food, water, and shelter.
And they are master hitchhikers to get to those things. The guide emphasizes that even the most pristine, immaculately clean homes can become infested through no fault of the homeowner.
Literally zero fault.
Think about the vectors here. They can hitch a ride in your reusable grocery bags. They can be tucked inside the corrugated flaps of cardboard delivery boxes, hidden inside the joints of a piece of used furniture, or even deep inside a secondhand coffee maker.
And if you live in an apartment building or a condo, they easily travel between units through shared walls and plumbing lines.
Exactly. The guide even notes that in older, established neighborhoods, like those common in Sacramento and Placer counties, they frequently move between entirely separate, detached properties using the underground sewer systems and utility connections.
So you could maintain absolute sterility in your kitchen, but if your neighbor has an issue, or if a single pregnant roach was hiding in the Amazon box you just brought inside, you now have an infestation.
And their diet. We always picture them eating dropped crumbs or a spilled soda. But what they consider a viable food source is shocking.
It really is.
If a kitchen is spotless and all the human food is locked away in airtight containers, a cockroach will happily survive by eating the soap residue left in your shower.
Or the glue holding your pantry boxes together.
They'll eat paper, leather, and even the starch used in the bindings of your books.
So a spotless home is certainly not a force field. Cleanliness absolutely helps limit their easy access to high-calorie food, which can slow down breeding, but it won't stop them from moving in and surviving perfectly well on your bookshelf.
Right. And I think that shame surrounding cleanliness leads perfectly into a very common psychological defense mechanism, which the guide specifically calls out
the disguise.
Yes. You see this all the time depending on where you live. People will swear up and down, oh, I don't have cockroaches in my house. Those are just palmetto bugs. Or water bugs, Or wood roaches.
It's a fascinating bit of linguistic gymnastics.
Totally.
Because if a cockroach means you're dirty, then renaming the large insect you just found in your bathroom makes it feel like a natural, acceptable outdoor occurrence rather than a personal failing.
Right. It's just a nature bug.
But to be brutally clear on the taxonomy here, palmetto bug, water bug, and wood roach are all just regional nicknames. They do not indicate a different, more acceptable type of insect.
Right. In California and across the South, when someone points to a palmetto bug, they're almost always pointing at an American cockroach.
Yes.
And let's be clear, this is a massive insect. They're our largest common species, capable of growing up to 2 inches in length.
They are substantial. And while it's true that the American cockroach naturally breeds outdoors, in damp mulch or in sewer systems, they frequently enter human homes through floor drains, under doors, or through gaps around utility pipes seeking climate control.
But an American cockroach by any other name is still a cockroach.
Exactly. It carries the exact same pathogens, it triggers the same respiratory allergies, and it requires the exact same professional pest control approach. Rebranding the insect doesn't mitigate the risk at all.
Okay, so let's say you drop the nicknames, you acknowledge you have a cockroach in your kitchen, and you decide to take action. This brings us to the DIY disasters.
Oh boy.
Have you ever hesitated to step on a cockroach because someone warned you that crushing it will release its eggs?
I hear this one constantly.
The legend goes that the eggs will stick to the tread of your shoe, and you'll end up tracking a brand new infestation through every room in your house.
This is a classic, widespread misunderstanding of how their reproduction actually works.
So it's not true.
Not at all. Female cockroaches don't just carry around a loose, sticky pile of eggs inside their bodies. They produce their eggs within a highly protective, hardened biological case.
Right. The guide calls it an ootheca.
Correct.
And from what I understand, the behavior around this egg case depends heavily on the specific species you're dealing with.
Yes, that's a huge factor.
The German cockroach, which is the most common species infesting California homes, will carry this ootheca firmly attached to her abdomen, dragging it around until right before the eggs are ready to hatch.
Whereas the American cockroach, on the other hand, deposits her ootheca in a hidden protected spot relatively soon after it forms.
Okay, so regarding the stomping myth, if you step on a German roach while she is actively carrying that egg case, you are simultaneously crushing the ootheca.
Spot on. And the eggs inside that casing require very specific, perfectly maintained conditions to develop and hatch. We're talking precise temperature, precise humidity, and time.
So smashing it ruins all of that.
Destroying that protective casing completely neutralizes the eggs inside. Furthermore, neither the casing nor the eggs are biologically adhesive. They're not going to magically superglue themselves to your sneaker.
So you can confidently stomp away without fear of becoming a walking roach spreader.
We can.
But as the guide sternly warns, crushing the one roach you see scuttling across the floor isn't actually solving your problem.
No, definitely not.
Because if you see one out in the open, it represents a tiny fraction of the actual population hidden deep inside your wall voids. Killing one does nothing to stop the hundreds breeding out of sight.
Precisely. Which is exactly what drives people to seek out easy, set it and forget its fixes.
Enter the ultrasonic plug-in repellers.
Oh, the plugins.
The marketing on these gadgets is brilliant. They promise a clean, completely chemical-free solution. You plug it into the wall, and it supposedly emits a high-frequency sound wave that human ears can't detect, but that drives insects absolutely crazy until they pack their bags and leave the house.
The marketing is incredibly compelling, but the scientific reality tells a completely different story.
They don't work.
These devices have been heavily scrutinized. Even robust research funded by the United States Department of Agriculture has consistently shown that ultrasonic pest repellers are functionally useless against cockroaches.
Are they just completely deaf to that frequency?
Interestingly, no. They can actually detect certain ultrasonic frequencies.
So why don't they leave?
The key behavioral insight here is that they simply do not find the sound repellent enough to abandon a prime location that is actively providing them with food, water, and shelter.
It's just not annoying enough.
Right. In controlled laboratory settings, scientists observed that cockroaches might show a mild initial startle reaction to the sound, but they habituate to it incredibly quickly. Within a very short time, they essentially just tune it out.
They just get used to the noise like a mild annoyance and go right back to foraging.
Exactly. And keep in mind, that's in a pristine, perfectly controlled lab environment. Now put that device in a real living room. You have couches, heavy curtains, drywall, carpets, and appliances.
Right, lots of obstacles.
All of those physical objects absorb and block high-frequency sound waves. The ultrasonic frequencies literally cannot penetrate the drywall to reach the interior voids where the cockroaches are actually hiding and breeding.
Wow.
So you're effectively plugging a useless nightlight into your wall while the infestation multiplies out of sight.
That inevitably leads to a feeling of total powerlessness, which the guide highlights as another major myth, the fatalistic view that once you get cockroaches, you can never, ever get rid of them.
It's a very common feeling.
People try a few DIY things, they fail, and they just resign themselves to living with an infestation. But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
People use those over-the-counter bug sprays because they spray the bug and they literally watch it die on the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
It's really hard to tell a homeowner that the dead bug in front of them means the product actually failed. How do we square that?
It's a very fair point, and it's the exact reason those sprays remain so popular. But you have to look at the collateral damage of that action.
Collateral damage.
Yes. Those over-the-counter sprays are typically formulated as contact killers, but they're also highly potent repellents.
Okay.
Yes, you killed the one roach foraging on your floor, but the lingering chemical scent of that spray acts as an alarm bell to the rest of the colony.
Oh, no.
Instead of killing the hidden population, it simply drives them deeper into the inaccessible voids and structural framing of your home to avoid the treated area.
Oh, wow. So you're just pushing them further out of reach.
Precisely. They continue to breed, entirely insulated from your surface-level sprays, and the infestation actually becomes structurally harder to treat.
That makes so much sense.
That's why professional intervention is the only true solution. Professionals don't just blindly spray baseboards. They scientifically identify the specific species, which dictates the biology and the treatment strategy.
Right.
They locate the hidden harborage areas, they address underlying moisture issues, they seal structural entry points, and crucially, they use targeted non-repellent products that the foraging cockroaches unknowingly take back into the walls, effectively eliminating the entire population across all life stages.
So what does this all mean? We've debunked the myths, but the guide ends with a section of rapid-fire facts that highlight what you should actually be worried about. Real biological facts that prove why you can't just ignore a roach problem. Let's run through them.
Let's do it.
First fact, their activity patterns are heavily nocturnal.
Right. They prefer the dark. Which means if you are suddenly seeing cockroaches out in the open during the daytime, you shouldn't just assume it's a stray wanderer.
It's bad news.
It is a massive red flag. Daytime activity typically indicates that the infestation has become so severe and the hidden wall spaces are so overcrowded that individual roaches are literally being physically pushed out of their harborage areas to forage in the light.
That is deeply unsettling to picture.
It really is.
Okay, second fact, their speed. They can run up to 3 miles per hour.
For an insect of that size, 3 miles per hour is blistering.
It's incredibly fast.
And the real-world implication for a homeowner isn't just that they're hard to catch. It's that their speed allows them to traverse from a dirty environment like the inside of your garbage can to a sterile environment like your food prep counters, incredibly rapidly, spreading bacteria the whole way.
Yeah, that's gross. Third fact, their structural flexibility. We mentioned German cockroaches are the most common in California homes. Look at the baseboards in the room you're sitting in right now.
Okay.
The guide points out that a German cockroach can vertically compress its exoskeleton to squeeze through a gap as thin as a single dime.
A dime.
Yes, if you can slide a dime under your baseboard, that is a fully accessible front door for this species.
It makes physical exclusion incredibly challenging without a professional eye.
For sure. And finally, the fourth fact, which is perhaps the most critical takeaway from the entire guide, the health impact. It isn't just that they are gross or that they track pathogens on their feet. Their physical presence is an active, airborne health hazard.
This is the danger that gets overlooked the most. Cockroach droppings, their shed exoskeletons, and their decomposing bodies contain highly specific, concentrated proteins that are severely allergenic.
Okay.
In homes with entrenched infestations, as these materials break down, those proteins become airborne and mix into the ambient house dust.
And we just breathe it in.
Exactly. Inhaling this contaminated dust is a major documented trigger for severe allergies and asthma attacks, particularly in young children whose immune systems are still developing. It elevates this from a nuisance pest to a serious indoor air quality issue.
It's a matter of keeping the air inside your home genuinely safe to breathe.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up today's deep dive, here's where it gets really interesting. I was looking into the team behind this comprehensive, highly scientific guide. Yeah, so the primary author is listed as Theodore Augustus Paul Chi. His title is the Chief Bedbug Officer at Simple Pest Management.
A very distinguished, authoritative title.
It really is. But Theodore, or Teddy, as he is affectionately known around the office, is not a human entomologist with a PhD. Teddy is a mini Bernedoodle. He is a dog.
I love that detail.
Right.
And while it's humorous, it actually highlights some highly advanced, modern pest control techniques. Teddy is currently in training to develop specialized scent detection skills, specifically for bedbugs.
That's amazing.
Canines possess incredibly powerful olfactory systems, and specially trained dogs can detect the chemical pheromones of live bedbugs and viable eggs with a level of accuracy that human visual inspection simply cannot match, especially in complex environments.
The guide makes sure to clarify that Teddy doesn't make independent chemical treatment determinations. He is still a dog, after all. His canine findings have to be verified by the human professionals on the team.
Of course.
But utilizing a scent detection dog in training shows a massive investment in proactive, highly accurate biological solutions. Plus, I have to imagine having a mini Bernedoodle around the office keeps the technicians' morale pretty high.
Undoubtedly.
I've had.
But it proves they are looking at the science of pest control from every innovative angle, whether that's understanding cellular radiation limits or utilizing advanced canine biology.
So true. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the resilient world of cockroaches, let's look at the big takeaways for you, the listener. Do not waste your money plugging ultrasonic gadgets into your walls. The roaches are just ignoring them.
Yep.
Do not let societal shame or embarrassment stop you from making a phone call to a professional, because these hitchhikers do not care how clean your house is.
They really don't.
And if you do happen to cleanly cut the head off a cockroach, do not assume the problem is immediately solved. Give it a couple of weeks to dry out.
Ultimately, the most important takeaway from this guide is that knowledge is power. When you understand the actual mechanics of how these creatures operate, how they breed, how they compress their bodies, and what they need to survive, you take the first crucial step in keeping your home and your health safe.
You replace blind fear with an actionable scientific strategy.
Exactly. It's all about fighting them on a biological level, understanding their design rather than reacting emotionally.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And to leave you with a final, lingering thought to ponder long after we finish here today, consider the incredible physical architecture we just discussed.
The anatomy stuff.
Right. We have a creature with a nervous system so brilliantly decentralized that a severed body can continue to perfectly coordinate its legs, and an exoskeleton designed with such precise flexibility that it can safely compress down to the width of a dime without damaging its internal organs.
It's basically a biological tank.
Well, right now, mechanical engineers and robotics experts at major universities are actively studying cockroach biomechanics. They aren't trying to kill them, they're trying to mimic them.
No way, really?
Yes, they're using the cockroach's decentralized nerve clusters and collapsible exoskeletons as the blueprint to design indestructible, autonomous search and rescue robots that can compress themselves through the rubble of collapsed buildings.
Whoa.
Or even deep space rovers that can keep functioning even if their central computer gets damaged. The very creature we are desperately trying to evict from our kitchens might just be holding the architectural blueprints for the future of our most advanced technology.
That is a wild perspective shift from a kitchen pest to a masterclass in engineering. Thank you for joining us on today's deep dive. We will see you next time.